Imagine a man who killed, but his victims were not random people. They were rapists, murderers, thieves, those whom he himself considered monsters worse than him. He was called the Brazilian Dexter. For some, a murderer; for others, an angel of death dispensing justice. But can someone with more than 100 victims truly be called a hero? Discover the story of Pedro Rodrigues Filho, a man whose entire life was one long shadow of violence. Pedro was born in 1954 in Minas Gerais, Brazil. His very birth was already marked by violence. His father, a brutal alcoholic, struck his pregnant mother in the stomach so hard that Pedro was born with a damaged skull. That mark stayed with him for life. At home, aggression reigned, and violence was an everyday occurrence. Pedro never knew tenderness. He knew only pain and fear. And it was in that fear that anger began to grow. The first murder. He was only 13 years old. He shot the deputy mayor of his town, the man who had fired his father, accusing him of theft. For the boy, it was revenge, but also his first experience of the power that violence gave him. It didn't take long before Pedro killed another man, a guard whom he blamed for the same conflict. That was the beginning of a road from which there was no return. The teenager marked by violence escapes into the criminal world. Pedro Rodrigues Filho quickly became the terror of the streets. Yet he did not act chaotically. He chose his victims. He killed drug dealers, thieves, gang members. In his eyes, they were like insects that needed to be crushed. Some said, he's cleaning the streets of bandits. But the truth was more complicated. Pedro was not a savior. He was a killer who found pleasure in it. By the age of 18, he already had dozens of murders to his name. Even his own family became victims. When his father killed his mother with a machete, Pedro tracked him down in prison, and there, during a visit, he killed his father in front of others, stabbing him, cutting out a piece of his heart, and eating it as a sign of revenge. That event made even the most hardened criminals whisper his name in fear. In 1973, at the age of 19, Pedro finally landed behind bars. But prison did not stop him. On the contrary, it became his new hunting ground. During transport to the penitentiary, Pedro was placed in the same vehicle as a rapist. When the doors opened, the rapist was already dead. Pedro had strangled him with his bare hands. That was only the beginning. Behind bars, he became a legend. He chose his victims: rapists, pedophiles, child killers. He earned the nickname, the Brazilian Dexter. Just like the TV character, he killed those he considered monsters. But let's remember, he himself was a monster too. It is estimated that in prison, Pedro killed more than 40 fellow inmates. Some say the number was even higher. He was like a shadow lurking in the corridors of the cells. No one knew when he would strike, but everyone knew that sooner or later he would. Pedro Rodrigues Filho, for some a murderer, for others a self-proclaimed dispenser of justice. The line between monster and hero is thin, but can more than 100 murders ever truly be justified? What do you think? Was he a hero or a monster? Write in the comments. And if you want to hear more dark stories, subscribe to the channel Drestra Proudy. See you in the next episode, if you dare to return.